Welcome to the inaugural podcast of the UF Center for Addiction Research and Education. My name is Oliver Grundmann. I am a UF Care member and a faculty of the UF College of Pharmacy. It is my great pleasure to introduce today the Director and Associate Director of the UF Care Center for Addiction Research and Education, Drs. Nixon and Peris. Welcome, Drs. Nixon and Peris. Would you introduce yourselves, please?
Sure. I'm Sarah Jo Nixon, and I have the honor of being the director of the center. I'm a professor in the departments of psychiatry and psychology, and I do work on basically human addiction science.
I'm Joanna Peris. I'm the Associate Director of Care. I'm in the College of Pharmacy in the Department of Pharmacodynamics, and I do basic science research on trying to understand the neuroscience of alcohol addiction. So we use mice and we get them drunk, and then we look at how their brain changes in response to alcohol.
Great, thank you. So this is already kind of highlighting the duality of the center, applied or clinical side and the preclinical basic science that the center highlights at UF. As a matter of introduction, I'm hoping that you can provide the audience with an overarching mission of UF Care.
I'd be glad to do that. I like that duality. It is, in fact, one of the strengths of the center here, because we are not a traditional center. We don't exist in a building. We don't have particular pieces of equipment or labs. Rather, we serve as sort of an intellectual home for addiction science at the University of Florida. And in that way, we're committed to exceptional science, exceptional training, and the desire to interface with our larger community in very meaningful ways. It's a diverse group of folks who really want to collaborate, we want to benefit science, and we want to benefit our community.
That is wonderful. And as I understand it, UF Care is one of the oldest recognized and longest standing University of Florida centers. It has been around since 1983, as I understand it. But I also understand that the center has undergone some exciting changes in recent years. So can you elaborate on those recent changes and advances?
Sure. It's been around for a long time, right? And with that, the evolution that we've seen in the center in the last few years really parallels the evolution in addiction science. The diversity, the integration of science, et cetera. So one of the things is that because of the university investment in addiction science, we've had an influx of addiction scientists here at the University of Florida. So that in 2009, I think we had about 13, and we now have 44 faculty members who are a part of the center. That's a very substantial growth, about 240% increase. A part of what's also exciting here is that these individuals come from approximately 6 university colleges and 13 or 14, I've lost count, academic departments. They aren't all one kind. In fact, they're very different kinds of addiction scientists. Fortunately, with the growth in the number of scientists, we've also had an increase in the number of monies from the NIH, particularly from the 2 institutes that are committed to the study of addiction, the National Institute of Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism and the National Institute of Drug Abuse. You'll notice that in 2009, across campus, we had about 14 grants from these 2 institutes for a total of almost $4 million. But these grants were largely limited to R01s. They weren't diverse in terms of the mechanisms that they represent. In 2019, with 29 such grants, you'll notice that they are across the line of kinds of funding mechanisms that happen with NIH, and they total about $12 million. And that's a 205% increase. We're excited about that.
yeah, it's been really exciting for me. I've been here at UF for over 30 years, and I came here because of the Center for Alcohol Research, which is its first incarnation. And there was really just a handful of people doing only basic science research, which I thought was great at the time. But of course, if what I'm trying to figure out is what's changing in the brain of alcoholics and drug addicts, that then can lead to a better understanding of how we can treat them and understand how to make their lives better, then it only makes sense that I would want to collaborate with people who do human research, epidemiology research, and other studies that we can kind of have an overarching kind of a goal for discovery of how we can learn new things about addiction and then try to target new treatments and new approaches to treating addiction. So it's just been great to see not only the number of faculty increase, but the areas of research and the potential for collaborations and new projects, which just keeps going up every year.
So, Dr. Peris, you have been, as you mentioned, around for so long, over 30 years, and have seen the first incarnation of the center when it was initiated as Center for Alcohol Research in the beginning, and then it has grown into this multidisciplinary UF Care. What of the recent developments would you consider the most exciting for you as a basic science researcher? You already mentioned some of them, but what are some of the highlights, so to say, in recent years for you?
Well, certainly the monthly seminar. I mean, we tried over the years to get a group of people who were all interested in addiction to have like a regular monthly seminar or monthly meeting to share data. And it was always just struggling to reach a critical mass. And really, it's just been great seeing the number of people who come to our seminars increasing. The size of the room increases. We got to get a bigger room every year. We have people coming from all across campus, from all these different colleges and departments. And particularly seeing the number of undergraduates, graduate students, and postgraduate trainees who, come and present. We have a couple of seminars where instead of one person speaking for the whole hour, we have 5 or 6 people speaking for 5 to 10 minutes. And so you really get a nice cross-section of what the newest things are that people are doing. And that's just awesome for stimulating new ideas and new collaborations.
That's wonderful. And I think looking back at the past 30 years, the center has come a long way already of expanding into these multidisciplinary collaborations, obviously growing tremendously. If you see 200% growth in faculty and in funding just over the past 10 years, where do you see the center in the next 5 to 10 years, kind of as long-term growth or long-term expansion, long-term goals for the center?
Well, one thing for sure is, this increase in collaborative projects that can end up with multi-PI funding. The other thing is, we have our addiction symposium every year, and it's been great to see that grow and to see, the invited speakers kind of being a little bit more prominent in the research community, being kind of bigger names. And then we've started to invite the other Florida universities with addiction research programs to attend that. We've started to, try to start a Florida Addiction Consortium or something. We haven't quite thought up a good name for that yet. But I think that's kind of how I see our short-term goals, is really to continue to grow our symposium and the connections between other researchers in Florida.
Yeah, I think the only thing I would add to what Joanna has said, I think she said it really beautifully, and that is, one of the things I really hope is that the center will be utilized, not just recognized, but utilized as the resource that it really is. Because we have scientists that range all the way from doing community interventions up through novel drug development, we have experts across the range of addiction science, and we can be useful to each other, certainly in the conduct of our science, and to the community and to policyholders. So if I had one little goal for the next 5 or 10 years, it would be that we would be utilized as a meaningful resource to the larger community.
And, you know, can I add, at our most recent symposium, we had Sheriff Lima, who's the head of the drug task force in Florida. I'm not sure I got that correct, the title correct, but he came and spoke, and he said, we want to know what you guys are doing. We want to know what the most cutting edge research is that's coming out of UF, so we could try to use that in our community. So that was really exciting to hear.
Yeah.
That is great. And I think considering the mission of U of Care is not only research, but also education, there is obviously that community involvement that you would like to see, and that is part of the mission and the goals of U of Care. So I guess the best way at the moment for the public, for other interested researchers within UF and at other academic institutions, as well as for regulatory scientists or alike, is to actually go to the website addictionresearch.health.ufl.edu to find out more about the center, find out more about the scientists, and to get directly in touch with both of you if they have any additional input or would like to learn more about the center.
I think that's a great starting place. I would absolutely, though, want to remind everybody who might be listening that the annual symposium that Joanna mentioned earlier is already scheduled for the spring and is going to focus on risk, resiliency, and recovery. We think that's a very timely topic, integrates much of our science, and it will be on April the 6th. There's more information on the website, and we'll be sending out more certainly as it comes closer.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Drs. Nixon and Peris, for taking the time to introduce the audience to the U of Care. And this is the inaugural podcast for U of Care. There will be frequently released podcasts of faculty members of U of Care who will share their research, and also some podcasts that just highlight the latest and greatest research that is coming out of U of Care. So stay tuned for upcoming podcasts and for the latest news from the U of Care. Thank you very much, and go Gators.
Thank you, Oliver. Go
Thank
Gators.
you, Oliver. Go Gators.